I woke up this morning and the first thing I did was I walked right up to my grandma and I looked her dead in the eyes and I asked her, "What do you think of the sport of Jiu Jitsu?" And she sat down and she thought for a long time. And the answer she came back with shocked me. She had a few very key things to say. And these few key things consisted of, it's gay, it is no longer effective in MMA, wrestling is better, it's really gay. And I looked at her back and I said, I disagree with you. And that is what prompted this video today. Because it's not gay, it's eccentric, It's a little gay, okay? I'll admit that a little bit. But I have a problem with every other thing that she listed, and that really was the inspiration for the video today. I do think that there are fundamental problems with sport jiu-jitsu today and how it translates to MMA, and I think that there are things that we can do to fix it. Starting off, this is an issue that I do not think gets discussed pretty much at all, but I think it really neuters a lot of aspects of jiu-jitsu. There is a rule in the UFC that you are not allowed to kick a grounded opponent in the head. And the reason why this rule was introduced was because the commissions believed that soccer kicking somebody on the ground was too dangerous. Now, I understand where they're coming from, but unfortunately, this rule has completely destroyed the very nature of fighting off of your back in MMA. There's a very famous clip online from when John Danaher went on the Joe Rogan podcast many a years ago, and he broke down what jiu-jitsu is in 5 fundamental steps. I want you to pay attention to one thing that he said right here.
There's a definite step. You've just taken a guy down. What's your first thing in Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Well, the first thing I would try to do is get to a dominant position.
What do you mean by that? Be more precise.
Okay, pass to side control,
Good. You just answered it right there. Get past his legs.
Past his legs.
Why?
His legs are strong. They carry you around. You could hold a person in position. They're very good defensively.
They're dangerous.
They're dangerous.
Okay, if I end up inside your legs, if you're a skilled jiu-jitsu player, you can arm lock me, you can leg lock me, you can strangle me. Even if you were an untrained fighter, you could upkick me.
Right.
Many a man has been knocked out by an upkick. Sure. Even an untutored guy can pull an upkick.
The legs are dangerous. Many a men have been knocked out by upkicks, and that is why it is fundamentally important to get around your opponent's legs. But the thing is, in the UFC, that's not the case. When a guy takes somebody down, they just try to stay in their closed guard more often than not. They choose to stay there. Why? Why is that? I thought the legs are supposed to be dangerous. Well, I actually no. The legs are not very dangerous because, again, the most dangerous aspect of your legs, that's not allowed in MMA. Let's take a look at when Charles Oliveira fought Arman Tsarukyan. Now, I understand a fair amount of people are going to think that I'm coping bringing up Charles Oliveira because obviously he's not at the tip top of the sport anymore. And, yeah, you're goddamn right, I'm coping. But also just very few people actually specialize fighting off of their backs. And I think the reason for that, as we're going to see here, is because, again, you are neutered off of your back. Arman Tsarukyan is on top from closed guard. Oliveira uses his guard to create a little bit of space, just enough so he can fucking punt Arman in the face. And the referee comes running in, the commentators scream in horror, No, are you fucking crazy? Kicking people in the face off of your back? What do you think, this is human cockfighting or something? No. This is a sport of rules and law and order and sportsmanship. No, it's just unfair. This is an unfair advantage to wrestlers. You are allowed to be on your knees right in front of me, and I'm not allowed to kick you in the face for some reason. Why the only thing you're allowed to do is punch him off of your back or try to submit him. I mean, it's unfair. This is completely unrealistic. And the very nature of this rule isn't meant to protect wrestlers on top. It's meant to protect guys off of their back. But the thing is, you're not going to get soccer kicked off of your back unless you're completely unconscious, because you're going to use your guard to keep your opponent in front of you. This rule is horseshit. And I think there's plenty of examples of this. Let's look at when Gilbert Burns fought Khamzat Chimaev. When Gilbert ended up off of his back, he did a phenomenal job using his guard to constantly maintain space. Look at all of these sequences. There are so many sequences here where Khamzat should not be safe. Gilbert should be allowed to fucking kick him in the face. Sorry, you're allowed to Sparta kick him to the body. That's the best we can do for you, because again, that's just barbaric. We don't do that around here. There's just so much potential for offense during a lot of sequences like this. When you are attacking submissions off of your back, a very common defense for the person on top is to posture, is to pull out, is to create space. You should be allowed to kick your opponent in the face. Or, look at this sequence right here where Oliveira sweeps Ilia with the leg lock. Ilia falls to the ground. He should be allowed to kick him in the face, but you're just not allowed to. And I think that this is a big reason why a narrative is pushed around that you cannot be on your back in MMA. That fighting off of your back in MMA is just ineffective. It is ineffective, but I think the reason for that isn't because it doesn't work. It's because the rules are set up in a way where, again, but the most dangerous aspect of being on your back just isn't there anymore. Because essentially, if you are fighting from closed guard in MMA, the only thing you could do is look for submissions. And it's like, man, that is so 20 years ago, fighting from closed guard. Let's be real. What submissions could you even hit realistically? Armbar triangle, maybe you can grab a Kimura. An omoplata is going to be really hard in MMA. There's just not a lot of things you can do from that position. So if you're going to take away, again, the most dangerous aspect of fighting somebody from that position, obviously it's not going to work well, obviously. But again, people try to act like it is a problem with the martial art rather than there is a rule in place that just completely neuters the position. And I think if you allow up kicks off of your back, I think more people would be willing to specialize in a position like this, because all of a sudden their offense from there is now 20 times dangerous. But because there's not, nobody even bothers to even try to get really high level here. Now, issue number 2, I think, is a much broader issue that is stemmed from a variety of reasons that we'll get into. But I think in order to make a jiu-jitsu background effective in MMA, you've got to be able to scramble. You have to. But when you do look at the top of the sport of jiu-jitsu, a lot of those guys don't really have that ability. For those who remember, there was a time where Gordon Ryan was looking to transfer to MMA. He himself said that he was sparring, he was preparing, he was going to do it, but John Danaher sat him down and told him not to do it. And apparently, John Danaher told him,
So John doesn't want me to compete in MMA because he feels like jiu-jitsu is just about to break into that next level of professional sports.
I hate to break this one to Gordon. I think Danaher was just very well aware that Gordon did not have what it takes to transfer into MMA. And again, I think this is for a variety of reasons, but I think when you look at most rule sets of jiu-jitsu, like you look at ADCC, WNO, they do 15 to 20 minute rounds straight, no breaks in between. Now, the reason why Gordon Ryan is so good, a lot of people will say it's because of steroids. It's not. The reason why he's so good is because he is way more technical than everybody else. But he's not very fast twitch. He's not very explosive. His game is reliant on breaking his opponent down systematically. Here's the problem. That doesn't work when you only have 5 minutes to work in between each round, and your opponent's only goal is to stay the fuck away from you and just try not to engage on the ground at all. For someone like Gordon, good luck going out there, pulling guard, grabbing your opponent's wrist, moving it this way, grabbing the underhook, getting the shoulder crunch, switching the hips, diving under for a leg lock. I mean, good luck systematically setting all of this up when your opponent, again, is just going to try to stand up and stay away from you. So, I mean, some may say, well, you just got to know how to wrestle. I mean, obviously you do need to know how to wrestle, but I don't even think that's enough these days. I think that when you look at someone like Buchecha, who just fought in the UFC, he does know how to wrestle. I mean, Buchecha is not a bad wrestler, but here's the problem. It's not about knowing how to wrestle. It's about setting up your wrestling in MMA. You see, the entire goal of wrestling, more or less, is to beat your opponent to the hips, to get deep on takedowns. Well, the way you do that in a wrestling match is very different than how you do that in a jiu-jitsu match, and that is very, very, very different to how you would do that in a mixed martial arts match. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, Buchecha was shooting a lot, but it was so hard for him to ever actually beat his opponent to the hips. His opponent was all over all of these shots because he just couldn't set it up well. At one point, he really committed to a hard power double leg and was able to take his opponent down. But then again, the problem there was Buchecha just doesn't really have great scrambling ability. I mean, you need to be able to jump on submissions. You need to be able to dive on them. I mean, that is the beauty of a jiu-jitsu specialist. Having insanely high-level jiu-jitsu should be the same as having an incredible KO ability. At any moment, no matter what's going on in a fight, a knockout artist has the opportunity to end the fight with a single moment. It should be the same in jiu-jitsu. All you need is one moment, one opening to end the fight. That is something that Brian Ortega is so special with. But someone like Buchecha, again, he didn't really have that ability at all. I mean, he was able to get to the back here. He landed some good shots, but he couldn't jump on any submissions, and neither could somebody like Gordon Ryan. So, despite the success Buchecha did have in this moment, eventually the round ended, they reset. He couldn't get in on any more takedowns. He didn't have the energy to commit to that hard double leg again. You have to be able to scramble. You have to be able to jump onto positions. And again, because historically most jiu-jitsu competition have long matches, guys don't really have this ability. You cannot be explosive and scrambly when you have a 20-minute round. You have to have a bit more of a slower, systematic approach, and that doesn't transfer well to MMA. But I think that things are changing on this front. I think because of the Craig Jones Invitational introducing the individual 5-minute rounds, and then obviously UFC BJJ copying that rule set, things have gotten a lot better. You got guys like the Rotolos, you got guys like Andrew Tackett, who these guys can wrestle, but they also have insane scrambling ability. Give them one opportunity and boom, you're stuck in a body triangle off of a scramble. Being able to capitalize on moments like this is so huge in MMA. But again, for the most part, historically, I mean, you've got so many guys who are world champion level jiu-jitsu players who specialize in winning matches by points. They win matches because they got an advantage, they got one sweep, and then that was it. They win the match because they scored 1 point on you. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it in the world of MMA, all right? Because if you're fighting a really, really high-level wrestler, they're going to be able to scramble better than you, and now all of a sudden, you don't really have any submission ability now to even end the fight. And I do think, though, that for the most part, that is changing with time. Because right now, a lot of the best guys in the world, the 3 things they specialize in are back takes, leg locks, and wrestling and scrambles. And I think that those 3-4 things are a recipe for success, especially leg locks. I think that there's a lot of untapped potential for leg locks in MMA. I think that, again, it's something that as we stand right now, on the totem pole of things you need to learn in MMA, those are pretty far to the bottom. But look, if you're fighting somebody like Merab Dvalishvili, are you going to treat a fight with him like a freestyle wrestling match where you're fighting tooth and nail on every single takedown attempt? I mean, good luck with that. You're going to melt trying to keep up with his pace. Ask Umar Nurmagomedov how that went for him. I would much rather dive under the legs and start wrenching on a knee bar if I'm fighting Merab. But again, It's something that not a lot of guys are specializing in, but it is an area that I think that could catch a lot of people off guard. But now, reason number 3, I think this one's a little unorthodox. It's a little outside the box, but I think that it is a legitimate problem. Daniel Cormier. I think Daniel Cormier is a problem for Jiu Jitsu and MMA. And I think that it stems from the fact that, you guys know how I feel about Daniel Cormier. I want to be nice and I want to be cordial here, but I think he's a fucking moron. I hate him. I hate Daniel Cormier. I hate Daniel Cormier because, look, he's a UFC commentator. He gets paid a lot of money from the UFC. It's his job to explain the sport to millions of people watching, but he's extremely biased and he doesn't know what he's talking about 99.9% of the time. And one moment I want to highlight is during UFC 300. One of the biggest cards we've ever had in a long, long time. Millions of eyeballs are watching this card. And Daniel Cormier decides to enlighten the masses with some of his wisdom. It was, again, during Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. Again, Charles Oliveira, he's just the best example for a lot of these things. Let me remind you what happened in round 1 of that fight. Charles Oliveira jumps on a guillotine, goes for it. This was a very tight guillotine. I mean, just fucking look at Arman's face while he's in this choke. Arman allows himself to get swept all the way to mount. The only reason he escaped was because his shorts slid off, making Oliveira's legs go with them, which allowed him to, again, escape the position and end up bottom mount. Oliveira stays on mount for a little while. Eventually, Arman sweeps him over, and he stays in closed guard and lands some short ground and pound shots here and there throughout that first round, right? Now, let's navigate to the UFC judging criteria, something that Daniel Cormier doesn't know exists. He's never, ever, ever tried to read this before, and it's crazy because it's not that hard to find. You just type in MMA scoring criteria, and you just fucking click on it, and you goddamn read it. And this is how they define effective striking and effective grappling, the number 1 criteria, might I add. And here it is, right? But Daniel Cormier has this wisdom to give about what happened in round 1.
And if you're generous and you really value submissions, Oliveira got the big submission off in the first round with the top control. Arman controlled the second part of that round, so a very close round 1.
Yeah, very hard.
Arman round 2.
Yes.
This fight could potentially go down to this round.
It could.
Or it could be 2-0 Arman.
Yes.
It depends on how you value submissions, he says. It just depends on how you personally value them, but, it's a very good chance that Arman won round 1, he says, because he ended up in closed guard for a little while on top. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? What are you talking? That's not, what? How do you not know that a criteria exists that we're supposed to follow that clearly says what is supposed to be scored? What? And again, millions of people are listening to this guy and trusting that he knows what he's talking about, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Again, judges are looking for actions that can contribute to the end of the fight. Top and bottom position fighters are judged on the effectiveness of their actions more so than their position. But Daniel Cormier, who again is biased towards wrestling and doesn't know this criteria exists, is perpetuating to millions of people that because you are laying on top of your opponent, you're winning the fight, when that's not the case. And this is something that you find everywhere. People will argue to death with you that guy won because he got a takedown and ended up on top, when the criteria that we're following says the complete opposite, and obviously every single judge gave Charles round 1.
And if you're generous and you really value submissions, Oliveira got the big submission off in the first round with the top control. Arman controlled the second part of that round, so a very close round 1. It could be 2-0 Arman.
Yes.
I mean, you can find so many examples of this, though. I mean, Gamrot versus Beneil Dariush. There were definitely moments in round one where Gamrot was getting in on some takedowns. Dariush was immediately spinning underneath to the legs, doing a great job taking the fight to an area where he has an advantage. I mean, overall, it was a close ground. I think they kind of completely nullified each other in the grappling, and I think that overall Dariush landed more effectively round one. But, obviously Daniel Cormier, that's not how he looks at fighting. Obviously, again, there's a judging criteria and all, but like he doesn't know it. So he says this.
Coach Cardero has seen it all.
Yeah.
And he feels confident they got round one. I'm not so sure.
Why you walked it back a little bit.
Yeah. Got taken down a few times.
And man, it is just such an uphill battle here, but I just try to do my best to show people and get people more educated on what is actually scored in MMA, because people don't know, and someone like Daniel Cormier is falsely giving the wrong idea about how to be successful in MMA. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, there are fundamental rules and there are issues overall with being on your back in MMA, but the truth is, the only time you don't want to be on your back in MMA is when you don't want a particular guy on top of you. But that position inherently is not losing, and, I think most fighters, I don't even think are aware of this themselves. I mean, look, there's a reason why fighters look to defend takedowns, get back up from the bottom, and end up on top. It's because of people like Daniel who perpetuate false rumors. And I think that, again, the more we can get people educated, I think the more this will change. Because, despite all the problems we did list today, I do think that there truly are aspects of sport jiu-jitsu that do translate beautifully to MMA. I think, like, right now, the best background you can have, it seems to be Sambo. And I think the reason why Sambo is so successful in MMA is because it's just such a well-rounded grappling art. There's wrestling, there's jiu-jitsu, there's judo, there's submissions in it. You do combat Sambo, then it's just MMA with a gi jacket on. I do believe sport jiu-jitsu at the highest level is a very well-rounded grappling art. Guys there are very good wrestlers. They have very good scrambling, very good back takes and submissions, and I do believe it can translate well, but we do have to work on changing the way that we train. I think that there are rules that need to be changed, and I think that more people just need to understand the advantages that are there, and I think if they can do that, I don't think there'll be a problem with jiu-jitsu and MMA.